Yeah, but you have to be careful here because the devil's in the details, right? And we're using language, and there's always going to be, first, it's impossible to communicate fully in language, and then once communicated in language, it's impossible to interpret exactly what is trying to be communicated because it's impossible to express. Um, that's where we can start kind of splitting hairs around like different kinds of desires. And there's an aspect of what you're describing, what I'm hearing, what you're describing, that's very positive. So the big difference is there could be a desire, which what you're describing is more life, abundance, vitality, and that's healthy. The problem is when what I'm desiring is in a reaction to what is now. But if where I am now, there's a somewhat of a deep okayness with it, and it has to be real. The problem is we can tell ourselves that I'm deeply okay with something and I'm not really. So that's what I call inner integrity. If you're being honest with yourself, um, if there's somewhat to a certain degree an okayness with how life is, then it's more likely that what I'm desiring is coming from a deep creativity, which will be imagining what isn't, right? That's creation. Uh, the imaginal, the creativity of thought in service of creating is a beautiful thing. And it's very worthwhile and should be pursued. And that's what I call, sometimes I ask this question, which is, what does life as you or through you desire? And the sense is I'm trying to call to something that's not the desire that's coming from limited thinking. That's why life, the universe as you, life as you. What does it desire to live through or as you? So this is kind of playing with language to invoke, inspire a kind of connection to an expansive, creative drive that is coming from an important place. And this moves through every being because it is life. If you're alive, this is moving through you. And so you're either pushing against it or going with it to some degree. And at some point, more one than the other. The problem that I'm describing, which is very common, is we often have a problem with what is now. And this, we experience it in very different ways. The way we have that kind of deep resistance to what is. And from there, we imagine something better because it's not what is now. So there's a no to what is. It should be this other way. That's the problem. Versus there's a yes to what is, and there's an openness to create something different, bigger, simpler, whatever is the calling, the movement. It could be traveling, it could be work, it could be a hobby, it could be a relationship, a family. It's infinite possibilities. But it could also be the family will be the solution to what's missing now, because now is the problem and I'm resisting this. And then you could find yourself, you have a family and still the same problem is there. It hasn't resolved anything. Which doesn't mean having a family was a mistake. It means there's something deeper you haven't addressed. Which is first the not okayness with what is, the no to what is, to see how deep that goes. Yeah, it's a total shapeshifter, and it's an addiction to that. And then the mind has become trained by us to find where the problem is, create it in a sense, and then if there's no evidence to sustain that, find another one. And so it's a self-convincing creating something that's not okay, that's missing. And then we have preferences, right? Different ways in which we're attached to that kind of dynamic. And this did start from very young. I mean, I could describe generally why it's happening at some level. It's a way in which we control what we're feeling at a deeper level. So this is a more psychological thing. There's a level where this is happening at a spiritual level. Let's say by distinguishing psychological and spiritual, I'm talking about a kind of different depth. So at the psychological level, this is what psychology is all about, and it's repression. We've gone through difficult experiences, scary experiences as children. There's trauma, and by that I'm using the word generally, because with Catherine, who's a therapist, she would kind of pick on, like, technically is it correctly nameable as trauma or not. By trauma I just mean an experience that is too much for us to fully feel. And then when it's too much for us to fully feel, we start to fight with the experience, and we push away and we control the emotional and feeling aspect of it, because our mind gets overwhelmed. And this happened a lot as children, because the mind of a child doesn't have the strength. It's too young to process everything. And so it's natural. And then a way in which we do that is through a lot of beliefs about what I am. And this creation of a narrative and a character. And there's an aspect of that that's healthy and necessary, but then there's an aspect that is a coping mechanism. And so what helped us, in a sense, survive then becomes a crutch. yes, to the point where I'm going to use my words, and I'm not wanting you to experience it how I describe it, but I could describe for me, my life was really not okay, something really missing, until it started to be beautiful, even with everything that was missing and everything that was wrong was just beautiful. There's a love there. But that didn't take away the desires of things, experiences, the creativity with life.
Mm.
And so the difference would be, my life is really not okay, I need to change it, and here are my strategies, my best attempts at that, versus there is this beautiful awe and love with this life, and I feel drawn to living in these directions. And what happened for me, and I think it's happened to pretty much everybody who has had these deeper shifts, is that you go into a certain kind of alignment, because when what you're moving with is the deeper kind of universal life desire, it's coming from something that's beyond the body mind. And so, in a sense, it's more in touch with and aligned with the universe, something that's freer and deeper and actually more vital, versus something that is coming from only the limited mind and is in reaction to the universe, in an attempt to control, to avoid something that's only happening internally in the body mind. And there is an alignment there, and so there's going to be a lot of friction.
Mm.
And I'm describing it as a bit of a black and white, but it could also be usually it's a progressive opening and listening more deeply and trusting more and feeling more well-being and love. And for some, that shift is very dramatic. It's like, two things. One, look at whenever you have this sense of my life is not right, something's missing, don't throw the baby with the bathwater. Because then you have this, you could go into a dichotomy where, like, no, my life is okay and I don't need to do anything. And then you're amputating the vital force of creativity. And on the other hand, look at how your life maybe is more beautiful, like, than you can imagine. And it's not your life. Is That's where it becomes life. It becomes existence. It becomes the the miracle of this.
Mm. Mm.
And that is in complete harmony with creativity, meaning it's infinite possibilities.
Mm.
And the other point is that it really matters to go deeper and deeper into what we truly want. And it could be really simple. That's where the work is. There's this inner integrity around how we fool ourselves. Maybe I don't want that much because it's scary. I might fail, or it might not work out. It might bring pain, or we might be pursuing something that's huge, but it's really not what's the deepest thing. There could be a big ambition, but it's a distraction. Yeah, to not amputate the process that's very healthy and vital of life. To to imagine the thing you want the most, and it might not be a thing, it's words. What is it that you want the most? And it'll feel expansive, it'll feel beautiful, and it might feel scary if you contemplate moving towards it. Often, if it's scary, it's touching on something real. And this works on many levels. It works on, what do I want right now in the next 5 minutes? What do I want tomorrow, the weekend? And then there's life. Why am I here?